SEC is at it again, suing another set of crypto companies, and this is how the market responds. Those assets are actually down close to 30-40%, and we do see them dropping hard. But yes, on the same market we are watching, some of the other coins are moving up, similar percent, 30-35%. So we do see money is moving in and out of the market. And if you look at XRP, it's just breaking below 0.7 at a time when Bitcoin is still holding on to 29,000, and it is having a little bit negative sentiment on the weekly. We just got a negative candle on the weekly and we are still at that range. So what are we looking forward to? Because we do get to see negative news like this, highlighting a federal judge in New York came up with a split argument or judge, where they had a different thought process than the judge told us. But what's the reality, right? When these mass media come out and put in this FUD, understand one thing, they are looking deep into some big guys who are funding those shit channels to buy that asset. That's exactly what's happening in the market. So you need to ask that question, are you going to panic sell so that these guys can buy more at a lower price? I do believe a lot of people will fall for this trap for sure, because when you see a media like this, which has access to 1 million followers, you will see a lot of others retweeting that. Then it actually spreads like a wildfire. So what exactly should the market be looking at? What exactly should we know when we look at the price action? Because opportunities like this exist in the market. When we went through this and saw that asset popping, if you were there, you would have seen it popping through about 10x. Right now in the market, we are watching a lot of these opportunities coming back up. Some of them showing 5x, some of them showing 10, 15, 20x. We were digging deep to see where we can find these and which set of highly correlated assets are showing us this kind of opportunity right now for the next 3-4 months. Because last time when we went through those, we were able to identify these kind of stuff in December. What happens? In Jan, they starts to pop. What happens after that? By Feb, they peak by 10x move. Now that's just one asset, great. And if you actually move further, looking at different assets, you also see we had other calls where it was like short-term burst, then it became a macro run up. We were literally calling for a 3 to 6x and it did 5x. So yes, that time is coming back in the market. And especially when that's happening, these kind of news and narrative is created to panic the market. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Now, we went through HEX a little while back and we saw okay, we are breaking through this range. We have some downside. This is the level of support. Then we were looking at a short-term chart saying, okay, this is actually moving up on the short term, but keep this in mind, that resistance is a major resistance. So if you really don't get some buy there, you're going to get rejected, right? And you're watching the price action right now reacting in a negative manner. Before we actually jump on in the details of how the market is doing, especially with respect to XRP and what we can look forward to in terms of the support, if you're interested in buying more, which levels are interested, we're jumping on there. But before that, I would like to thank each and every one of you who smashed that like button. This is the first time I'm watching, after a long time, we are moving above 800 likes. And I'm really thankful for each and every one of you who have obliterated that like button. And if you can, please do that again. Let's see if we can reach 1,000 likes. Now, while we look at this chart, we are right now looking at different scenarios. One, to make it clear, remove all this and we are literally looking for which range is a support resistance zone. So first, you're watching this has been a resistance, then that turned into a support resistance zone. Now, you can literally zoom in one by one each points to see, did we actually get that right? one area, you dropped into that zone, you got a reversal signal, you went back up. So buyers were interested in buying that asset back then. Again, you see that range holding. You see that range inviting buyers. So you can actually see that acting as a resistance and then as a support. So that means from a long period of time, this range happens to be a support resistance zone. Great. What are we doing now? We just want to actually extend that range to this point. Now we are like, okay, what's the bottom of that range? It happens to be somewhat like 0.68. That's one of the reasons why when we had a call for XRP before, I actually gave you guys that exact number. Say, okay, let's look for 0.68 first. If we break that, yeah, now we are looking for 0.6, right? Now, why is that? When you actually try and plot these resistance trend line here, which we had watched that the market was respecting from some time, and exactly the same thing, you go in and you actually notice the fact that the market was respecting it here, the market was respecting it again and again and again in different time frame. That was literally something positive to watch. One of the best thing to see is that we are still trending higher, we broke higher, everything is positive. The only thing which is happening right now in the market is a negative sentiment is being pushed on, and some of those guys who are trading this asset, who are new to this asset, who really don't understand the fundamentals of this asset, they will panic sell, and we'll always have that kind of investors, traders in the market who just, buy because of that popped, and you expect much higher price action. But what's the reality, right? On a macro chart, this is the reality. What do I mean by that? Look at this particular candle. That pop was so massive on a weekly, you would usually see something coming a little bit back down and then running back up. This has been the story for an extended period of time, whether you are looking at this range of run up and then you correct back down, or you're looking at each leg to the upside, you do see a corrective action before you actually take the next big leg. Now, where do that actually gets erased? Meaning you start to be so much in parabolic action. That happens when you take out a major level of resistance. What do that actually mean for XRP holders? That means when you actually observe the fact that the price action takes about $1.6, $1.7 range and go towards $2, that means now you're watching for something like this. You'll still get some volatility for sure. Back then it was like 55-60% drop if I'm right. Let's actually measure that right now. Yeah, close to a 60% drop in the market. If that's true, we shouldn't be surprised watching how the price action is evolving right now. Now, the reason why I said that this is not the time to panic is like the market is looking just like this. Last time when we saw these kind of price actions, it was like opportunities are entering into the market, right? We literally saw them happening. We literally followed them through till the top. We were following it on the short-term basis. We were trading that. We were literally following it pattern by pattern because we knew the macro side, because we understood this was happening. The exact same thing is happening in a lot of different assets right now. They had a corrective pattern which was still pointing towards the bullish side of things. You broke that to the upside, you consolidated, and that kind of mashed up a long-term accumulation range. Now it's trying to break through that, which means once you break that, you're looking for massive run to the upside. Similar things happen when the market is about to do things like this. One thing to keep in mind is when you see random assets doing these moves, yeah, we can actually spot them. We did. The short-term moves were there, then the breakouts were there. Everything was called out on time. And I'm, thankful for all the guys who are following me on the group. And if you are attracted to these kind of calls to get them on time, be there, right? The link is in the description below. Now, one of the important facts to keep in mind is when you actually see some of these assets negative, you then have to think like, okay, is it actually impacting the entire market? No, it is not. Now, if you actually look at the opposite side, you don't have a lot of coins popping. We are watching some of these trying to break short-term resistance, but we are not actually seeing a huge run-up in a lot of different coins. And that's when it makes a difference when you can actually spot these kind of moves. But in general, The trend is just changing. How can you identify them? Right? You go look at the last 30 days and you see some of these assets are starting to look positive, net positive in a quarter, net positive in the yearly, short term, long term. It's all turning. The trend is shifting. And if the trend is shifting, don't go bet against that trend. Trend is your friend, and that's true. Whether it's in crypto, whether it's in stock, any assets you're trading, you're investing, this gives you an advantage and edge in the market, right? So if you actually go back to XRP on that point and keep this in mind, the trend just changed here. There is no arguing the fact that we are still macro bullish. Why? This particular trend line on a weekly has been valid from a very long period of time, from May 2022, which means, about a year, this trend line was bullish. And if you go back, now, one of the easy things you can do is zoom into this and look at this point. It was July the 3rd, 2023. Watch the video and what we were saying. Look at this one. Watch the video, what we were saying. 9 out of 10 times you would have watched me saying, okay, this is coming back to the trend line. I expect a bounce back from this point. And we did bounce, right? Now, the exact opposite also should be true. You actually went up, you faked out. Now you're trying to slow down. What's positive here? If we happen to bounce off from this range, it's a macro positive signal, which, would actually attract more buyers because we are going back into that territory. But what's the hard thing here? There's a weekly chart, so you do need some level of patience. And then if you have more patience, you're looking at a monthly chart. You don't actually care about the short-term volatility. You don't actually care about what's happening in the short-term price action. Because right now, the fact that we actually saw the MACD crossing back to the upside with the volume on the positive and the monthly MACD trying to enter the positive zone, that usually push the price like crazy. So if you have a doubt and you want to look at different assets, you can actually do that, right? You go through the price history of a lot of these assets and you look for when these assets actually started a major run, right? And you start observing the fact that, okay, as soon as they entered the positive zone, you started getting momentum. And that continued pushing it higher. And that's on a monthly. And then you actually go on a weekly, a micro, you get to see all these different pictures. Now, going back to what we are looking at in Bitcoin. This trend line has been valid for like few months here, right? So from the December, this has been valid. And right now we are watching that, yeah, we do have a short-term level which we need to keep in mind, meaning this previous level of resistance may act as a support. What's that? 28,158 can act as a support. And if that fails, we are looking for like 27,500. So if you actually put that into numbers, what we are watching is say, okay, that means the price action is showing some level of panic. Agreed. So keep in mind, the first range is 28 to 40. So if the price action happens to actually break that, okay, now you are looking for the 27,500 range. Now that won't be the best writing, but you actually get the point. Now, if that's taken out, what if that trend line is broken? That means now the next range of price action which we should watch is in this range. That's close to $24,000. Now, question actually becomes like, okay, are we really about to do that? Because we would like to see the monthly MACD, we would like to see the monthly RSI and ask similar question like, yeah, the weekly actually shows you we are turning negative on the MACD. The weekly actually shows you that we are about to turn negative on the RSI if we break this trend line. But as of now, we are holding on to it, but we do have a divergence. So that's the negative. But then you actually step on to the monthly chart, and this is what you're watching in Bitcoin itself. We had a double bottom here. We broke to the upside. We are moving through. We have a MACD which has turned positive. It's trying to push higher. Whenever those kind of movements come back into the market, look at the price action. Yeah, there would be negative sentiment. There would be all these things happening. Why? Because as soon as you cross to the downside, yeah, we all understand the fact that it is going down. But then you actually get a fake out saying, no, I'm going to the other direction. People start betting against it. And the market says, bye. It goes down. So that level of trap always comes into the market. Whether it's the whales, whether it's the manipulators, they do these kind of shit. So for us to get an edge we need to understand the fact, okay, we are crossing to the upside. The story is the same. We know how this ends. They would try most likely to push it close to 27,500, saying, I'm going down, go short. Then they would say, bye-bye. They'll push it to the upside, liquidating a massive amounts and moving to the upside. That's where the market actually gets liquidity. So we don't really want to become that part of the market where it's like, okay, I'm here to provide liquidity for the whales. We don't want to do that. What we want to understand is that macro picture. Did it actually change? No. We have been following this from 6-7 months, saying this bottoming pattern came up here. Exact same thing. We discussed about that for an extended period of time. It stands true even now. You got to break out. You got to retest. You got to bounce higher. What else you need to understand that the trend is to the upside, whether you are on a price action guy, whether you are indicator guy, looking at the momentum, looking at the oscillators, all of these actually shows you something huge. Why? Even in a corrective session like what we had, which was painful to be frank, from April 2021 all the way till this point, it was painful. But look at the RSI. It's showing you I'm trending high. I really don't care about what you think. I really don't care about what I think. The market is saying this to me, I don't care whether you're a good guy, bad guy. This is what I do. So when we understand that fact, the market is the true thing, we need to actually see what the market is showing us and keep our opinions aside. Opinions does have value to understand and study the market. But if the market is showing you the other direction, then you slowly forget that opinion and focus on what the market is showing you. If the market shows you, I consolidate for some time and I'm breaking higher, that's going to be a trend. You may have micro consolidation in between, but you're still going to follow the trend. And that is what interests me in this asset right now, showing you macro level of bullishness. That's a monthly chart showing you I'm going macro bull. Now, yeah, if you actually go on a quarterly chart, if you actually look at all this, you kind of become okay, we got a double bottom. We are starting to trend up. This is just the starting point. We have a long way to the upside, right? These kind of things actually interest a lot of people if you are here as a long-term investor. But for most of us, 1 month chart itself is so long term, we don't have patience for that to evolve. And that's exactly what happened. If you remember, back in the time when we were actually going through this stuff, we were actually literally taking this on. Not a lot of people actually believed that this is possible. But right now, when you look at that price action, you do see that, yeah, that's exactly what just happened. Now, if you actually go back on what Stuart was actually saying, this is clear. Nothing changes the reality that the ruling like this happened. Meaning, the law of the land is that XRP is not a security in itself, which means investors are going to come and they're going to buy this asset back. Now, what interests me and what kind of, gives me more thought process and validation for a lot of these assets which are found and posted in the group early, saying, I do think this group of assets are actually going to do a 5, 10, 15x is this story here. And when I actually saw the way Credible actually highlighted this, I'm like, that's great. That's what we are looking for. What? 8 out of 9 times when volatility was this low, we saw an expansion to the upside. The one time that we didn't was after 6 months of consolidation that followed the 2017 parabolic blow off. So whether it's the 9th one or the other 8, it's all looking bullish. And that's the point I was trying to make. The market is showing you this. Whether we close our eyes and try making it dark, it doesn't matter because the market is going to do what it has to do. For us, our chances, okay, let's study this. Let's understand where the opportunities are looking at. If that's at a group of assets, highly correlated assets, have one of them at least. That helps you. So guys, if you haven't actually smashed that like button yet, please do consider doing that. That supports the channel a lot. And if you're looking for these kind of updates on the right time for the right assets so that you can take benefit of these, then look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. And for yearly, now I've seen some of these people actually asking, the rates are a little bit high. If you actually go for the yearly, what happens there is I've actually set to the maximum which the Patreon actually allows. This is like 16% off. So that if that helps you, and if you're a long-term investor looking for, the one-on-one sessions and the charts, the alerts, whenever I take profits, all those things, this kind of helps you because, right now I'm handling like 342 individuals and I only have 24 hours a day, right? I have a family, I do my CFA, I do my MBA, all this are tied up together. So I may not be able to actually open up a lot of spots. If someone actually, upgrades or goes out, that spot will be vacant, but I won't be actually able to increase it massively because last time I actually understood, it actually went up to 1,200 and I was sleeping 2 hours a day. And that was the time when I was doing my PhD thesis. Well, it was so hard for me. And at this point, we aged. It's 2.5 years, but crypto aged us like 20 years. I'm getting a lot of white hair. So we understand that fact. So in that sense, maybe I can open like, 40, 50, 100 spots in different tiers, breaking it down to different tiers. So if you are there and you want to actually seize that opportunity for the next year when the bull market is happening to rebalance the portfolio, take the profits at the right time and all, and you want to get my thoughts on all those, then that makes sense. So guys, that's it for today. I'll meet you guys in the next video. Bye for now.